Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. He's the mighty Joe Yeager, and I'm Jared Johnson. We have some really good questions from subscribers this week, so let's dive right into them. First one, mighty Joe, comes from Pig Wrencher, who says, why don't you or Joe do a countdown on the top 20 individual performance in a single Texas Tech basketball game? Not just points, but the overall game.
That had never occurred to me before, but that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. The only problem with that is that, first off, you're talking about a lot of basketball games, and if you go back too far, there's just not a lot of information, on that sort of thing. At best, maybe you find a box score here and there, somewhere squirreled away on the internet, but it is difficult to find that information. But, if you were to confine that to more recent games, like games that I can remember or something like that, then no jokes, Jared. I don't go all the way back to the 20s or the 30s.
Long time, though.
But for quite a while. So, this is a possibility. I may do something like that. Thanks for the idea.
It is a great idea, and maybe we could do a video series kind of counting down our list or whatever. All right. Next question comes from All the Smoke, who says, once the new teams join next season, do you think there will be any discussion about relocating the conference tournament? And I assume he means the basketball tournament. Right. I don't know. It seems like it's pretty locked in Kansas City. Kansas basketball has obviously been a big part of Big 12 basketball since it's been around. I don't know. I think I will say this. Somebody mentioned later in this mailbag question thread that the football media day has already been moved to Vegas for this summer. There's a lot of changes with the conference, and not just the Big 12, but also just obviously the college landscape in all sports. Another thing is that Texas or Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, really wants to establish and push the Big 12's brand in basketball and get its own TV networks, all that. He really, everything I've heard from people in the know, people behind the scenes, people in the scenes as well, are saying he's really doing a good job of making an effort in that respect. So with that in mind, I think anything's possible.
Yeah, could be. Wouldn't rule anything out. But this is one of those conversations that seems to perennially pop up a little bit. There's some resentment from other parts of the conference, particularly down in the state of Texas. Why is it always going to be next door to the Jayhawks? It gives them an unfair advantage. The northern teams, they come down from Ames in huge numbers as well. And, here we are all the way down in Lubbock or Austin or wherever it is. So you hear that a lot, but nothing ever comes of it. And it seems like in general that this tournament has a very, very good reputation all across the country. And a lot of people think it's the best conference basketball tournament that there is. And that Kansas City does a really good job of hosting it. So, if there are any changes, I don't really see them happening anytime soon. But as you said, it's a chaotic sports landscape these days, so who knows what may happen.
Next question comes from Z Tanner, who says, what does the Tech's depth at corner look like, and does it make you nervous? A little bit. They brought in some help through the transfer portal, but Marion Horn is a guy that Coach McGuire mentioned, I think on National Signing Day, that it's time for Horn to step up and take leadership of the secondary, and that he's capable of that. I think he's going to be one of your starting corners. And Braylon Lux, who there were times last year that Lux looked like the best corner on the team. And I don't say that lightly, because I think Rashad Williams did a really good job. Malik Dunlap did a really good job in their time here. But Lux made a lot of plays, and he was tested a lot. I like Lux. I feel really good about starting corners. We'll have to see on the transfers, man. I could puff them up, just like everybody seems to do. But we'll have to see. I want to see them in spring. I want to see them with my own eyes, see how they do against a little competition, and then go forward. But, there have been times in the decade covering Tech where they had really only one legit starting corner. I don't think that's a problem with Texas Tech right now. They have some young guys coming up as well, but I like your two starters. I like what they brought in from the transfer portal. We'll just have to see from there, Mike Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, and you got A.J. McCarty, the guy from Baylor, who looked pretty good there. He definitely looks like to me somebody who could be at bare minimum a solid backup.
Yeah, he plays safety too.
And he plays safety too. And Jordan Sanford is not a bad guy. He's got some speed. So, and then as you said, you got all sorts of freshmen. Yes, that's right. Macho Stevenson is he looking at? Are they looking at corner or safety for him? But I don't know. There's a couple of other young guys that you never know when some of those guys may emerge. I think they will be able to cobble together enough depth there at cornerback that it's not going to be too much of an issue.
All right, next question comes from Syntax, who says, way too early to tell, but he'll ask anyways. Where does McCasland land in ranking the Hocutt hires?
Well, pretty doggone high. I mean, if if what we're seeing right now is an indication of what's to come, excuse me. Actually, I think this is a better hire than the Chris Beard hire, because when he hired Chris Beard, that was a slam dunk hire. I mean, anybody was going to hire Chris Beard. It was just, there was nobody who was even really considered. That was a guy, obviously, that you were going to go for. And if he was interested in the job, that he was going to get it. Yeah. So, he just did the obvious thing there. But now with McCasland, it wasn't quite so clear cut. I mean, he was maybe the top candidate the whole time. But you were looking at Paul Mills, who was at Oral Roberts, Randy Bennett at St. Mary's, and there might have been a couple other guys that people were looking at a little bit. So he actually had to make a little bit of a decision on that one, and it sure looks like he made the right decision. So yeah, that one could rank very, very high, possibly at the top. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a great hire so far, but they haven't gone through a whole first season. I mean, what were we saying about Mark Adams' hire after one season? Yeah. The first season. So yeah. I don't think this is the same situation. Don't get me wrong. I'm the same guy who gave McCasland an A+ in the last week or two in one of these videos in terms of the job he's doing. But whoa, I'm not saying it's not our money and all that. So if they want to give him an extension or a raise or whatever after this season, great. Whatever. But in terms of ranking the hire, to me, I need to see 2 or 3 seasons before. I mean, you asked this, and Joe answered it, and I respect it, and I agree with it. But let's let him at least finish the season. I like to see a couple seasons before I can really rank it. And From Syntax prefaced his question with way too early to tell. So All right. Final question comes from Teeny Pepper, who says, speaking of Kirby Hocutt, what current grade do you give him as Tech's athletic director? Football he has his own thoughts, but yeah, what do you think?
I think it all pretty much hinges upon Joey McGuire and what he does. And you were talking about let's wait and see with McCasland. I'm still in that camp with Joey McGuire. I mean, he had a heck of a first season, second season, not bad, but still something of a disappointment compared to preseason expectations. So to me, he's kind of in that limbo land of which way is Joey McGuire going to go? How is his hire going to work out? Could be great, but maybe not. And so we're just going to have to see on that. And I think Hocutt sort of sinks or swims on that hire. I mean, if McGuire winds up killing it, then Hocutt, his grade goes very high as well, and his position here is solidified. On the other hand, if he flames out, then, I mean, the football program, again and again and again with a lot of, I don't know, just flat out bad hires, and so then his grade doesn't look so hot after all. So a lot of that is tied to McGuire and what he does, I think.
I think it's tied to that, and I agree with everything you just said. But it's also going to be tied to, and this may be unfair, but it's reality. Does he keep Texas Tech relevant in this ever-changing landscape? College landscape is the Big 12 is the Big 12 and Texas Tech going to be relegated to second-tier status, or is it going to remain in the main category? Will it be a power conference? So, and he's been getting a lot of credit for Big 12 maneuvers and how they outmaneuvered the Pac-12 and all that, and I think rightfully so from everything I've heard. I'm not in those. I haven't read those emails or been in those meetings and all that stuff, but just from everything I've heard, he deserves that credit. But in my opinion, he should receive some blame if they're left out in the cold, when all this shakes out. So if it happens under his watch, we'll have to see. And but I think overall he's been a pretty good athletic director. The football thing has been a thing, but I'm a little bit I'm a lot more sold on McGuire than you are, especially because I'm closer to the recruiting and see what they're doing in terms of improving the roster. But yeah, overall he's done a good job. But let's see how McGuire does. Let's see what happens with the conference realignment and ever-changing national college sports landscape. But Maya Joe, great stuff from you as always. Great questions from you all. Thank you for watching, and until next time.